Welcome to Retire Coast, where we discuss all things retirement, life on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and your financial welfare. Bill Anderson, your host, is a serial entrepreneur having created many successful businesses and holds a real estate broker's license, speaks about personal experiences with each topic. Listen.
Thanks for coming back to Retire Coast. The topic we're going to discuss today is one that's part of our series on Gen X, or Generation X, 20 years to retirement. And I want to specifically talk about the Sam's Club fishing shirt. So what does that mean about retirement? How does that relate to retirement? Well, actually, I was giving some thought to that. And I was thinking back a little bit earlier in my working career, when I was in my 40s and 50s, for example. So what we did was we went down to the local store and we bought whatever brand name shirts or pants or anything else that we decided we needed, just like everybody else. So you're going to spend 20, 30, 40, 50%, maybe even more than that, on buying these brand name products that you're used to when you're younger. You know, in your 20s, you want to look sharp and you're out maybe on the dating scene, so you want to buy the latest thing so people can recognize that you are up with everything, up with the current trends. Same thing with haircuts and everything else. As you get a little bit older and you start to have children, that fades away a little bit, but not much. You'll find out that people your own age maybe have transitioned from wearing a certain type of shirt or blouse or dress or garment, and it's just transitioned to something that people in that age group wear. Unfortunately, almost all of those products are usually far more expensive. Now, I'm just talking about clothing right now, but I could talk about cars also. Now, I'm speaking from personal experience. I have owned many, many new cars. I have owned every type of luxury car and sports car you can possibly imagine. Well, I never purchased any one of those big Ferraris, but I've had a Porsche, I've had Mercedes, everything, because I could. And that is what I want to get to. There is a time in your life when you need to focus on retirement, and you'll spend more and more time thinking about retirement as you get older, but you need that switch to turn when you're starting to look at things and saying, you know, I don't know how I'm going to retire. I don't see it because I don't have a defined benefit pension plan. I have a 401k plan. I have some money put aside. I make good money now. If I save enough money, I'll be able to retire. I haven't really taken a good hard look at what I'm going to get for Social Security, so I haven't put the package together. Well, it's time to do that. It's time to do that when you've got 25, 30 years to retirement, so you can start to make some changes to your lifestyle that will improve your options in retirement. And what I'm talking about now is not just cutting out spending and doing nothing, sitting at home on the weekends instead of going out and enjoying yourself. That's not what I'm getting at here. What I'm getting at is you start to look at things, and the word is things, and their real value to your life. And you wonder, well, if I go down to Sam's Club and I buy that fishing shirt, and I call it a fishing shirt because I don't know what else to call it, but it's a shirt people wear in the summertime that makes you cool. Now, you can buy a lot of brands of that type of shirt, and you can pay double the amount. But the end result is it's a shirt. It looks as good. It feels as good. It does the job. It protects you from the sun. It's cool. It does everything that the more expensive shirt does, except that the label is different. Now, when you're younger and you think that label is very important because you want other people to see you with that label, well, I can understand that. But as you start to age, you have to start reevaluating where you're spending your money, because there's two ways that you can have a secure retirement. One is you can save a lot of money. The other is you can spend less. Now, if you do both of those things, you've got a real good shot at having a great retirement. And here's what I'm suggesting on the spending side, is you take a look at what you're buying. And now let's take a car, for example. You can buy a Chevy, you can buy a Ford, you can buy a Toyota, or you can buy a luxury car. And basically, those cars are going to get you from point A to point B, no matter what type that you have. One is going to be much more expensive than the other. Do you need it? Is it important that you show your neighbors that you're driving a BMW or a Mercedes or a Lexus, one of those type of vehicles? And you start to think, wait a minute, I could save $25,000. I could save $50,000 on buying a car that is practical, large enough, it's nice, it does the job, it takes care of the family, and that extra money I can put away. Whereas 2 or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it would have never occurred to you that you shouldn't buy it just because you can. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is just because you can doesn't mean that you should. That's where people go wrong in their 40s and 50s. They don't save enough money because they're overspending on things they don't need. Now, you can spend on things that you want, but you have to be judicious about spending on things that you want. You need to more focus on those things that you need. And if things aren't that important to you anymore after you give it some real serious thought, and you're not trying to keep up with all the neighbors on the latest fads of everything, including razor blades, for example, then you can save a lot of money, and you can still have a nice lifestyle. There's no reason to go overboard. The same thing with staying in a luxury hotel if you take a vacation with the family. There's no reason to do that. Go to a vacation rental. It'll probably save you a lot of money. Those are things that you can change your lifestyle and start to accumulate wealth and still have a great lifestyle while you're moving forward. It's just small changes that you need. And then don't buy something that you don't need. Just because you want it doesn't mean you need it. Give it some thought. Think twice. Ask your spouse, do we really need this? Maybe you go out and rent it. Maybe you buy it used. So let me take you to the RV situation, which I'm going to do a separate one on that. A lot of people will go out and buy a brand new motorhome. Why? What's the point of buying a brand new motorhome? I don't know if you realize this or not, but most motorhomes, and I mean most in a high percentage, have difficulties, have problems that you'll discover in the first year. It will sit in the shop for weeks getting those things fixed. Hardly any motorhome manufacturer will produce a product that just runs and works perfectly out the door for the next year, 2, 3, or 4 years. It just does not really happen. It's such a rare case. So what happens is that sits in the shop, eating up that warranty time in the first year. I know this. I've done this several times before, and these are mistakes I've made that you shouldn't make. So I suggest if you're going to buy a motorhome, for example, buy one that's used with low mileage. There are lots of people who buy motorhomes and realize it's not their lifestyle. It sits and parked someplace and it doesn't go anywhere, and you buy one for 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles. But that motorhome now works fine because they took the time to get it back in and have all the bugs and problems fixed, so you can actually use it and take it on a vacation, and you can save a tremendous amount of money, upwards of 20 to 30% right off the top. That's the difference between buying a new one and a used one. And this is what I'm talking about on the lifestyle. Same thing with used cars. I think we all understand that. If you buy a car that just came in off of a 2-year lease, as I have in the past, you can save a lot of money. And again, it's a car. As long as it's nice and you feel good about it, why not? All of these are ways that you can save. So before I go any further, I want to mention that we have a whole series on Generation X, 20 Years to Retirement. There are 6 articles, and there is a course in development as well, a full course, many hours, to help you in the entire planning cycle for retirement so that you can not miss anything, every single thing that is possible to consider for retirement should be in the course itself. But before the course is ready, please go and read all 6 of the articles. There are lots of tools in those articles, and one in particular is a budget. That is the core of everything. You need to go and take a look at that budget tool, download it, and start to use it. And then you can start thinking, well, gee, I can get by if I do this or I do this. Most people are shocked when they first take that budget tool and start using it, because they'll look at it and say, I'm not ready for retirement now because I either don't earn enough money, or I haven't put enough money away, or I'm spending too much money. And that's what you need to recognize now. And again, there's no need to do radical changes for most people in your lifestyle in order to prepare for retirement. The thing about retirement is that the average person's going to probably be retired for about 20 years. 20 years. You realize how fast the money can go that you have taken maybe 30 or 40 years to save up. You need to use that money to supplement your Social Security. Now, if you have had high earnings most of your life, and your spouse has too, then your Social Security will be pretty comfortable. The average person is going to earn less than $2,000 a month in Social Security, and you know what? That's less than the average rent right now. So I don't want to scare you away. I'm just the point that you need to start looking at some reality without having, once again, I'm going to hammer this home, change your lifestyle completely. You can still enjoy things. You can still take the kids out for ice cream or, enroll them in Little League. You can do all of those things when you're younger, as long as you don't do what you don't have to do. For example, go down to Sam's Club and buy that fishing shirt rather than going to one of the other stores and buying that brand name fishing shirt. You'll end up with basically a nice shirt, and you could stretch that out to all kinds of other things in life. You just don't need to overspend, and the more you can save, the less onerous it becomes for you in terms of the actual dollars you need to accumulate. Just cut back on the spending because you can today, and you have high salary, and you can afford to go out and eat all the time, and you can afford to do all these things, doesn't mean that you'll be able to afford to do that in retirement. And if you don't take some of that money you're spending today and sock that away, you're going to have a poor retirement. And you're going to sweat bullets about this for the years to come as you get closer and closer to retirement. And then think about this. Your future self is going to thank you for giving attention to the retirement today. So think about that, your future self. You don't want your future self to be crying in the morning because you can't afford to make the electric bill payment. So I have nothing more to say on this that isn't already said in our articles, our series of articles, and in our course. So you can go to one of the articles, and at the bottom of the article, you can put your name in there to be notified when the course is available. And the course will take you through everything you need to do to set up for retirement. And literally, we talk about everything. So rather than repeat all of this on this forum, I'd rather have you go to retirecoast.com, where you can read all about retirement and many other topics that you should be interested in if you've listened to this podcast. Of course, come back to our podcasts and listen to more of them, but we often have the podcasts embedded in articles that we've written that you should enjoy. Well, thank you again for coming, and I hope to talk to you again in a future podcast. and please visit our website, retirecoast.com.